For this Daphnia drawing, I recommend that you print the template page onto kind of a medium blue paper or even a darker blue. Or you can even use green. If you can't do it on colored paper, you can print it on plain paper. That's fine. The project will still work on plain paper. The reason I'm using a blue paper here is because I found some kind of neat pictures on the internet. Now this one is just regular. This is the way it really looks. If you look at a Daphnia under the microscope, that's what you're going to see. But using special lighting techniques, you can make something appear light on a dark background. And I just thought these were really nice looking, and I thought, hey, that might be kind of neat to do light colors like white and tan and light green onto a kind of darker background, and it would make it a very attractive drawing. So what I'm going to do first is just go over the anatomy. You have a list down here. We're going to number everything and talk about it, and then I'll give some coloring suggestions and then let you just finish coloring it on your own. Because the color doesn't really matter. Let me show you. Here the digestive tract is shown as a kind of orangey color, and here it's kind of like a greenish color, and here it's kind of like a tan. So you can kind of use whatever colors you want to. So let's start out with number 1 right at the top here. Number 1 is the swimming antenna. So this whole thing is number 1. This is a branched antennae. It goes like this, and it branches and forks. It's kind of like if you go like that. And then there's these sensory things that hang down. And there's another one behind. It's got 2 of them. So if you would, well, let's see, in this one you can see here there's one here, and you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 of these branches. So they definitely have 2, but I didn't put in the back one because then there would be so many lines here, it would kind of get confusing. So you can label this. I'm gonna put a number 1 like right here. This is number 1, and this is also number 1. You can put the ones wherever you want to. This is number 1. All this whole thing is number 1. This whole thing is number 1. Even down to here, way down here, this is still part of number 1. This whole thing. And so these are the antennae it uses for swimming. And if you haven't yet seen a video, you really need to go to YouTube and find one. Just type Daphnia magna in, and you'll see lots of videos of them swimming around. They kind of go like this. They use this as an oar, and that's how they propel themselves, kind of in a jerky motion, which sometimes reminds people of how a flea moves. So sometimes these are called water fleas because of that jerky motion. Alright, so that's number 1. Number 2, there's another set of antennae. This is actually usually called the second set of antennae, but we're labeling it number 1. There's some little tiny antennules down here, and you can see on this drawing, I can't get close enough, little things sticking off of here. Can we see it on here? Right here, there's a couple little things sticking out, light colored. So make a couple little antennae things sticking out right here, like that, and label them as 2. And so these are little sensory antennae, just to give it feedback about the environment. Now this might look like a nose or a beak or a mouth or something, but it's not. We can go ahead and label it. This is number 6. This is called the rostrum. Now the mouth is in here. So this thing doesn't have anything to do with smelling or tasting or eating. So what do you call it? It's not a beak, it's not a nose, it's not a mouth. You can call this the head, but what is that? Well, the kind of generic term for a pointy thing on the end of a head on a very simple invertebrate is rostrum. Alright, so next we'll go back to the list, number 3. Number 3 is the compound eye, and that's the thing that looks like an eye. And here we have, unlike a lot of simple invertebrates, we actually have an eye that functions as an eye. It's not just an eye spot. This eye actually sees. Number 3. So these little tiny facets, called ommatidium, it's like an insect eye. So it sees multiple images. If you've ever seen an image of what an insect sees, they have lots of little lenses. So it's not a smooth picture like we see, but it's broken up into little pieces. So it has very much like an insect eye, but it can actually see. It also has down here, this is number 5, a little ocellus or eye spot. This is more common in very simple invertebrates like planaria, and some worms and snails and slugs have an eye spot that just lets them see light and dark. So that's their light and dark spot. And then let's see, number 4, the muscles that control the eye. These things right here, the stripes, are the things that roll the eye around. Number 4, muscles. And then right here, what they're attached to, this thing is the brain. And it's big enough we can actually call it a brain. A lot of times in simple invertebrates you just call it a nerve ganglion because it's pretty tiny. But this we can actually call a brain. It's a very simple brain, but we can actually call it a brain. Down here, this opening right here is the mouth. Number 8. So the mouth is inside the organism, and what it does is it uses these 5 pairs of legs to gather in like this, bring water and little particles in, and it sweeps the particles towards the mouth into here. And the particles are very tiny, anywhere from 1 to 50 microns. So that's the size of a bacteria up to the size of a small protozoan. So what it really likes to eat is little algae cells, maybe about 10 or 20 microns large, which is pretty tiny. It's microscopic. And so it feeds these little particles into here and then down through the digestive tract. And you can see here I have a picture where you can see the case, little legs sticking out. This is an SEM, scanning electron micrograph, where you just see the texture, the outside, and you can tell that it looks like maybe like a seed that's popping open, maybe like a pistachio nut or something. And so the legs are inside here, and so it's bringing in water inside the shell, the carapace. Alright, see, number 9 will follow the digestive tract. Number 9 is this thing. And I saw a lot of question marks on what it does. They kind of, they think it probably produces digestive fluids. It's called the hepatic ceca. But some of these parts, they're kind of pretty sure they know what they do, but they may have other functions as well. But I'm pretty sure it has something to do with digestion because it's hooked up to this to the intestine here. Now, number 10 down here, this squiggly thing is a little more mysterious, and it's usually called the shell gland. But in my notes here, I have the one I'm working from here. It says excretion, question mark, osmoregulation, question mark. So they think it maybe has something to do with water balance, but there's still some questions about what it does. But it's fairly large, and it's in every diagram, so we will include it. It sometimes kind of laps over on top of the arms, but I kept it small so it's not obscuring the legs. Okay, so number 11 is the intestine. We'll go back to the digestive tract. This whole thing down here is the intestine. So I'm just going to mark it right here, 11. But you could put an 11 up here if you wanted also, 11. And also down here we could put 11. This is still the intestine all the way down there. And then you'll color that when we're done here. Color that all one color. And let's see, 12, it says muscles that move the antennae. So that's these over here. All of these things. 12. You can point to it like this if you want. 12. Or you can write the 12 right on it, like that. So these attach to the antennae and to the edge of the carapace. So when you want to pull something, when this gets shorter, and that's going to pull the arm down like that. If this gets shorter, it's going to pull the arm up. So it can alternate short, like this. And that's how it moves, just by coordinating these muscles. And they're anchored right to the outside shell there. Okay, number 13 is the heart, and that's right here. It has a little beating heart, and again, if you haven't seen a video, you need to get on YouTube and find one. You can actually sing pumping away fairly fast, over 100 beats, maybe I think 180 per minute. Now there's no veins coming out of it because the Daphnia has an open circulatory system. So all the heart does is just slosh the water around, basically. However, there are little tiny blood cells, very much like our red blood cells, floating around. So it actually has some blood cells, but they're not in veins. They just float, and the heart just keeps the fluid moving around. Like if you stuck your hand in a bathtub and just kind of swish, 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 and got the water moving around. Number 14 is this thing right here. This is the brood chamber. This is where the eggs hatch. Let's go ahead and put 15 right here. That's the ovary. And when you color it, if you want to kind of, you can do it now, make some little circles, make it look like there's eggs in here. Make it look lumpy, like that. So that's where the eggs come from. They go down this little tube here and then out into the brood chamber. And this is where the eggs hatch. And they develop into baby Daphnia. And then when they're ready to go out, the Daphnia kicks with this leg. This thing is all one piece here. This is like a little flap that keeps it closed. So this flap needs to bend all the way down. So it stretches its leg way out, and this flap comes open. The bottom of the chamber comes open, and the babies just swim out. And there's a really great video on YouTube. If you type in Daphnia magna giving birth, the next generation, I think it's called. There's some great footage of baby Daphnias being born. So you can put either eggs or babies in there. I'll leave it up to you. Here's a very colorful way to put the eggs in there. Slightly less colorful. And you can also put some baby Daphnias in there. You can find some pictures online if you want to, baby Daphnia. Actually, here's a little guy right there. Cute baby Daphnia. So I'll leave that up to you, whether you want to put something in the brood chamber. Sometimes you don't see anything in the brood chamber. There's no eggs in there. So that's for you to fill. And number 16 is the spine. Oops, that's this little pointy thing down at the bottom here. 16, that's probably like a rudder. Helps it swim or something. Helps it for directional swimming, I suppose. It's not really for jabbing anything. I don't think they don't use it that way. The abdominal setae. Okay, number 17 is these things right here. And these are just some little hair-like things. The word setae, S-E-T-A-E over here. You can see the word. That's the same word that they often use for the hairs on the bottom of an earthworm. So these might be just sensory, possibly, or maybe they help it to turn. Maybe their legs for some friction if it's trying to move. I don't know. But they're in all the diagrams, so we're going to put them in ours. And 18 is the anus. That's right here, this opening where the intestine comes out. So it has a complete digestive tract. It has a beginning and an end, unlike the planaria and unlike the hydra, who have an incomplete. They just have one opening. This one has two. And number 19 right here, the abdominal claw. And actually I went and looked at an actual Daphnia, and I saw that the leg has two little claws. If you want to add one, you don't have to, but if you want to be super accurate, you can add another one. 19. They think that this actually might be for defense, because it can bring this leg out. So this whole thing, it's like the intestine runs through the leg. But this thing right here, this whole thing is a foot. And again, watch a video and you'll see it can bring this out and it can kick. It can bring it right outside and it can kick. So it would be able to, sort of defend itself with that little claw. And 20, let's put 20 right here. The carapace. The carapace is the shell. I just looked at it here. You can actually really see that looks like a shell in that drawing. That's the advantage of an SEM. You can actually see the texture, whereas these kind of drawings, you can't see the carapace at all. That gives you a good picture of it. And 21 is the thoracic appendages. Okay, so that's these guys right here. 21. This is number 21 right here, and here, and here, and here. Now each of these is a pair, so it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And 10 is a very common number in the crustacean group, lobsters and crabs. They usually do have 10 of these feet, thoracic appendages. So a lot of them do. So it's weird, it has pairs here, but just one of these. One eye and one foot. Now, for some coloring guidance, I'm going to show you what it looks like. You can use a very light color, like a white or a light tan. You can kind of do some cool stuff here. Don't color over your numbers, but you can make it really stand out on the blue. And then you're going to need to add some hairs on these things like this. Use a very light color. Now if you're working on regular paper, it doesn't matter. You'll just be making them with a pencil. But all these need to have things like that added to them. Okay, so you can finish those also. And then these, you can make these always look white. If you have a white, you can add a little bit of to those. Add a little bit of color to the muscle fibers if you want to. These you can't really see very well in a microscope. Everything looks kind of clear. And for the digestive system, if you want to make it sort of realistic, you could use kind of a green for the intestine. It's often greenish because it eats algae. And then if you want to use another color, you just want to add some color because it's a diagram, you can do that. You want to do something like that. It's up to you, it's your drawing. And let's see, I'm going to add some color. There's my thoracic appendages. Put a little color in like that, so you can kind of see what's the feet and what's not feet. And then this here, this foot, this will help you to see where the foot is. This is all one piece like this. So the intestine goes right through the claw, kind of like that. You don't have to make it this dark. You can make it whatever color you want to. And then don't forget, in the brood chamber, you can make some eggs if you'd like to. More babies. You might only have that many eggs, or maybe a few more. And then I leave it up to you to finish the coloring. Again, anytime you have a question, you want some ideas, just go online and type Daphnia magna into the search and see what you can find.